We sure appreciate you being here, first of all. Thank you
Sure,
very
Randy.
much. It's okay. So, four main divisions: criminal, civil, family support, and juvenile. You've got hundreds, almost 600 employees.
A little over 600, actually.
Okay, okay.
I'm trying to learn all their first names, too.
This has got to be one of the toughest elected jobs in all of Clark County, and one of the most that is open for Monday morning quarterback. Why would you want to take the job as district attorney in Clark County?
You know, Randy, I've been a lawyer 31 years in town. I started my career in the DA's office. As a young lawyer, my first job was in that office. My first day as a lawyer was as a deputy district attorney. So it's almost like coming home. I feel good about it. I think it's the right time in my career. I think it's the right time for the community to have somebody with my experience.
On which I'm about to enter.
During your swearing in fact, you alluded to that, and you say this is a critical time for all of us in Clark County, and certainly in your office. Just explain that remark.
Well, we've had a lot of important things occur in this community in the last few years. Up until just a few years ago, we were one of the fastest growing communities in the country. So we're a big city now. In a big city, we have big city issues. A lot of them good and a lot of them problematic, you know, with all the police officer involved shootings, the coroner's inquest issue. And I could go on and on and on. I think we're at a critical point in this community's life to move forward with things. And so I think that there's a lot of important issues.
Well, I think we've heard some of your remarks as being an elected official, a city councilman for the past 7.5 years. That will help you in this job. But how is it going to be that in a lot of instances you're going to have to go in front of another group of elected officials, a county commission, for budgeting and staffing and things like that? How is that going to play into doing your job?
Well, I think being a city councilman is going to help me. I have experience as a councilman being on that end of the table, having department heads from the city come before me, having the experience of working with other elected officials, understanding the politics behind so many things. So I hope I can use that experience now that I'm a department head for the county when I go before the county commission for my requests. I think it's an advantage.
Let's talk a little bit about the relationship between the public defender's office and the district attorney's office. Let's face it, that's sometimes it's always an adversarial relationship, and it's been a little bit frosty lately. Have you reached out to public defender Phil Cohn yet, or do you plan on it, and or how do you see the relationship between those two offices working?
You know, I've known Phil for almost 20 years. We've been friends over the years. During this selection process, I reached out to Phil. I wanted to know what were the most important concerns from his perspective. We've had 2 or 3 conversations just in the last couple of weeks, as recently as yesterday. So, yeah, at times we're adversarial in the courtroom. You know, my deputies prosecute people accused of committing crimes. His deputies defend them. But at the same time, I think we have similar goals. Our goals are to achieve justice, to do what's right for our community. So on the one hand, we're adversarial, but on the other hand, we still, you know, we're both constituents, we're both taxpayers, we both care about what's best for this community. So I think in a lot of ways we can work together on common interests.
I see something, Mr. Wolfson, you're doing that's completely different, is you're establishing a Facebook page. Is that just kind of a sign of the times and trying to become even more transparent with what you do and just use the social media to your advantage, to the advantage of your staff?
Oh, yes, yes, yes to all those things. You know, so many people are on social media now, whether it's Facebook or Twitter. I think it's a great way of communicating. I think it's a great way for transparency. There's some issues that I still have to iron out, whether, you know, and how we use the Facebook. We're going to do an email newsletter in the district attorney's office. So internally, all of my 600 plus employees are going to be learning on a day-to-day or week-to-week basis what everybody's doing. You know, you mentioned we have a family division, which is almost, you know, over 300 employees, but they're way over on Flamingo Road. The other 300 or so are scattered between downtown, and then the juvenile and child welfare is over on Pecos. So, you know, how do we communicate? How do the divisions know what we're doing? The newsletter is going to be great, and Facebook is also going to help in that regard. It's about communicating. It's about understanding and knowing what our fellow deputy DAs and our fellow staff people within a 600-person office is doing.
Are you planning on any changes on how you deploy your DAs as far as any of the cases or any of the teams or anything like that? Just talk about that a little bit if you would.
Well, We have a basic structure in our criminal division. We have a team and track system. We have certain deputies assigned to the general caseload, and then we have some specialty teams. Generally, it works very well, but there are some areas where I'm doing some reviews. Just today, I met with all of my team chiefs. It was about 10 of us in one room for almost 2 hours, talking about, what is the best way to administer justice from our office's standpoint. So there may be some adjustments, there may be some tweaking, but generally the DA's office, not only the family division, not only the criminal, juvenile, child welfare, we have great lawyers and great staff. So will there be some changes? Yes, but I'm not going into this with the attitude and approach of the first week making major changes. I want to get a feel for it. I want the people to get to know me. I want to get to know the people that are working with me. I want to do an evaluation. I want to spend some time getting a feel for the office, but I'm already looking at some changes in some areas.
Okay. I know the bad check unit is something that has been very successful for more than a decade, and specialty courts are something that you pledge to revamp or to improve, add into the district attorney's office. How can you do that given budget constraints and losing deputy district attorneys?
Well, I have almost 150 lawyers in my office, Randy, 90 of them just in the criminal division. And they're spread out between the different divisions like I talked about. I do want to have deputy DAs in the specialty courts. In fact, today at my team chief meeting, we were talking just about that. But the specialty courts are not 40 hours a week in 5 courtrooms. Take the DUI court, for example. I don't necessarily have to have a deputy DA for the entire court hearing. Some things the judge can handle by their own. Other things we want a deputy in the courtroom. So I'm doing that analysis right now to determine what's the best way to have deputy DAs in those specialty courts.
Obviously, one of the biggest issues is the coroner's inquest process, which has come to a screeching halt temporarily, at least at this point. But yet you've already made some changes. I see you pledge again to have deputies involved every step of the way. Talk about that a little bit, if you would.
Absolutely. In fact, Randy, on the way over here, I just left the third and final pre-inquest hearing for the one coroner's inquest, which is moving forward. And I am going to have senior deputy DAs representing the DA's office in this process. I believe we're going to have our first hearing in the next 30 to 60 days. And I think it's a good thing. A lot of people put in a lot of time and effort from all different sides of the issue. The victim's family is going to have a representative. The officers, if they choose, is going to have their own representative. So I think what this community needs is to give the new inquest ordinance a try. Let's try 2 or 3 hearings. Let's see how the new ordinance works or doesn't work, and then we'll take a fresh look at it after we try 2 or 3 of them.
If you had a magic wand and you could make this either go away or solve or create a perfect coroner's inquest system, is that possible, or could you do that? Do you have a vision for something like that?
If there's a magic wand out there, I want to know where it is, Randy, because I'd like to buy a few of them. I don't think there is a magic wand. I think that the current ordinance is a culmination of a lot of things that have occurred going back 30 or 40 years, and then more recently what's occurred in the last couple of years. I think the ordinance is the result of a great effort, like I said, by a lot of people. Let's give it a try. Let's see if it works. If it works, perhaps we continue with it. If it doesn't work, maybe we look in another direction.
And something you'll be forced to look at, obviously, are the number of filings for death penalty for capital cases, which we seem to have an extraordinary number here in Clark County. What is the procedure you're going to use, or will you use a similar procedure to examine these cases that we have now?
The procedure that's been in place is a procedure that calls for a death penalty review committee. It's comprised of deputy district attorneys from my office that we review cases on a case-by-case basis. I'm going to be at every one of those committee meetings. I have the ultimate voice. As the district attorney, I'm going to make the ultimate decision whether or not to seek the death penalty. I will tell you I'm very sensitive to the consequences in seeking the death penalty. My position is I think the worst of the worst should receive the death penalty. And I think we all know what kinds of cases come under that category. There are some that we shouldn't seek the death penalty, and then there's those ones in the middle. those are going to get the most scrutiny. But I've pledged to the board that I'm going to do an analysis and a review of the process, because I understand that when you seek the death penalty, there are necessary consequences from a budgetary standpoint.
And finally, you spent a good career of a good chunk of your career, I should say, physically in the courtroom. How much time do you think now, as the district attorney, will you be actually trying cases and being in a courtroom yourself?
Well, those are two different things, trying cases and being in the courtroom. I see my job as an administrator and a manager, so I don't see myself necessarily trying cases. Being in the courtroom, I'm a hands-on manager. I'm going to be in the courtrooms. I'm going to be watching my deputy DAs. I'm going to be helping in the learning process, the training process. You know, we've got, like I said, 90 lawyers just in the criminal division. We've got another 20 down in juvenile doing the delinquency and the child welfare, and then, of course, some in civil and some in the family division. We've got great lawyers. But I think we've got a lot of new lawyers. We just hired a bunch of new lawyers. We're getting ready to bring on some new young lawyers. I'm going to be in the courtroom monitoring their progress and giving some good feedback as I see it.
All right. Well, we sure appreciate you spending some time with us, and let you get back to work.
I've always watched your show, Randy. It's a pleasure to be on it for the first time.
All right. Thank you very much.
Sure.